Scope, and iTunes. And also, we are live on digital radio. Search for us. Go to the sportscast.net. There's a player there, or go to the Radio for Alabama app or Radio for the Denver Broncos app. We'll list all the apps that you are able to listen to us live. And if you're in iTunes, if you're a podcast person, please leave a rating and a review. It will help us out tremendously. And, of course, visit us on the sportscast.net, thesportscast.net, and on our Twitter at the Sportscast1. We got some exciting news, not just sports, but also some comical stuff. This episode is brought to you by Insta Bible app. You can download the Insta Bible app in the iOS App Store. 3.3 is out. Go get it. And the Pac-12, it is back. It is set to return November 6th. The turning point for the return of fall sports for the Pac-12 came this month when it entered an agreement with a company that was able to test people for COVID rapidly and for each student daily. So that was a big component for the Pac-12. And joining us, a person that is a Pac-12 expert, and also Ryan Christa, a somewhat Pac-12 expert. Ryan Christa and Ty Turner, welcome to the Sportscast.
What's up, how you doing?
Tyler?
Can you hear me?
Something's up.
I hear Tyler.
Can you hear me?
Is it me? Wait.
Can you hear me, Santiago?
Hello?
Santiago.
Might be me. Sorry about that. Hold on.
Ryan, can you hear me?
I can hear you guys. Sorry about that.
I can hear it, yeah.
Sorry about that. There was a error on my end. Anyways, let's start with Tyler.
Santiago.
Yeah, let's start with Tyler. Pac-12, announced last night. Tell us what led to the announcement last night.
I think it was just, where do I start? Well, I think what led to the announcement last night was the fact that they were maybe going to be the only conference in the FBS not playing. So I think that played a pretty strong role. I also think the fact that they're financially just getting destroyed. I also think the fact that they did get the rapid testing like Liddell, so they really couldn't use an excuse that they didn't have a very good safety measure in place to keep the student athletes safe. I think what they basically had no choice but to come back. I heard there's some rumblings that actually it wasn't as unanimous, that it almost was a split vote, and some of them still wanted to push it back to January. And ultimately, there was a majority that didn't, and they were able to convince the other ones that they had to start now. But the way I see it, between just, you cannot possibly be left behind. It would destroy the conference. It's already behind all the other conferences as far as revenue, as far as really competitive viability. I think they had no choice pretty much to join that conversation and start back up.
Ryan, Christa, tell us your first reaction when you first heard Pac-12 was coming back this fall.
I was excited because obviously I like football, and the last couple of weeks, at 10 o'clock at night, all the games are over, or 11 o'clock, and it's like you're itching for little Pac-12 after dark. Like Tyler said, I think it came down to perception and reality that they can't be the only league playing in the springtime or winter time. So they got to bite the bullet and finish it, and they got this good deal with the testing company, which is, I really don't know why everybody, I know it's a price issue, but I feel like everybody should be hopping on these daily testing, because we're averaging about 5 cancellations a week, which is okay. But what kills you is that, let's just say Notre Dame and UCF, Notre Dame has a couple of people test positive, forces UCF to do all this contract testing, and now therefore their game is canceled. If we can get everybody involved in these daily testing, you don't have all that contract tasting issue. But that's a sidebar. But it's good for the Pac-12, good for, the teams out there and players first and foremost. We're learning that you can play safely and keep these players safe. I think especially because, I mean, there's really no one on these campuses, I don't think either, because most of these schools are virtual. So it's basically like having their own little bubble there. So it's always good because I think there's some quality teams, this year, Oregon and USC, those are quality teams that could compete, I think, for to get into playoffs.
Pac-12 Commissioner Larry Scott said in a statement, "From the beginning of this crisis, our focus has been on using data and counsel of our public health and infectious experts, medical experts, and our agreement with Codell, which is the company that will test the players, to provide rapid results, everyday testing." And it was a game changer in helping us to move forward with confidence that we can create a safe environment for our student athletes while giving them the opportunity to pursue their dreams. Tyler, it'll be a short season. Only 7 games.
Yep.
What do you think about that amount? Obviously, I believe they're going to play one non-conference game. Tell us, what is that format going to be looking like?
No, they're not playing non-conference.
Okay, just
they're going to.
Pac-12.
Yep, they're going to be playing 5 divisional, 1 crossover. So divisional, there's North and South. All the North play against each other, all the South, and then there's going to be 1 crossover game between the North and the South. And then the final weekend, they are going to do just like the Big Ten, like their big brother. What big brother does, you follow, right? So Pac-12 following their daddy. The Big Ten, they're gonna play like 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2, 3 versus 3. Obviously, you'll get a Pac-12 champion. And 7 games is not ideal. Of course, you're if you get a couple games canceled, you're at the risk of playing 3-4 games. It's just not very many. But you know what? They have a chance to crown a champion that will lead to a New York 6 berth. And who knows what happens? Let's say Oregon, and people keep on mentioning Oregon and USC because I think they're the only 2 teams that I think would have the ability this year to go 7-0. And it's kind of frustrating for me. I'm an Oregon guy. Oregon had unquestionably a college football playoff roster, but because they delayed, Oregon lost Penei Sewell to the draft. They lost there's 2 starting corners, Diamador Lenore and Thomas Graham, to the draft. I also heard Jevon Holland, who is projected high round draft pick. I heard he's probably going to opt out even though they're doing a season. So Oregon's not going to even be quite as good as they were because you lose the best lineman in college football, that affects your offensive line. So it's kind of frustrating, but I think they're the only 2 teams that could run the table. And USC lost a couple of players of their own. They lost their best offensive lineman, Vera Tucker, the best defensive interior lineman, and Jay Tufele. And you just never know if USC is going to show up and be able to put a top end performance week after week. It's been pretty inconsistent under Clay Helton, but I think talent wise, those 2 teams possibly could go 7-0. Would 7-0 allow them to make the playoffs? I'd say probably not if you're looking at it in a vacuum, but you know how unpredictable this season's been. If you have a bunch of other teams just canceled games and you're then comparing an 8-1 versus 7-0 or a 9-2, yeah, maybe then Oregon does get in, or USC. So, yeah.
College football playoffs, that's the big elephant in the room. Obviously, a whole lot of these conferences are starting at different times. Ryan, obviously, can the playoffs happen, and can a conference like the Pac-12 make it to the playoffs?
Like Tyler said, if everybody plays 10 games or 11 games, which is an ideal situation for these other conferences, it is going to be hard for a team, to prove it in 7 games that they're worthy of making the playoffs. But I think that's ideally. And if other teams only play 9 games or 8 games, and, you have an Oregon, a USC who just blows everybody out of their conference, I think that's what you got to do. You got to have a lot of eye tests. I think this is going to be a ridiculously hard year for the playoff committee to evaluate who the 4 best teams are, because no, you're not playing the same amount of games. You're dealing with, on a week-to-week basis, who's going to be playing for you, who you're playing against is available. So, I mean, it's going to be a lot of eye tests. It's not going to, all games aren't created equally. All conferences are definitely not created equally this year. So I could definitely see, a Pac, one of the Oregon teams, Oregon or USC making it, but I think it is a long shot. Well, what it does is just make it more of a long shot for UCF, another group of 5 teams to make it. So they're the ones who kind of lose out on the news of this last couple weeks of the Big Ten and Pac-12 coming back. But it's just not we'll get to December and see what happens. Whether they play the playoffs or not, I think they're pretty safe. As long as the season doesn't go totally into a dumpster fire. But I think they could be moving back a little bit just to see if we have more cancellations, maybe announcing it, a week or two later, moving the games back a week or two.
How about you, Ty? What are your thoughts of with the Pac-12 chances to make into the playoffs?
Well, I kind of just touched on that. I think that's dependent upon if other teams cancel, how good the teams look, if they are really dominant. And like I said, that's why I was frustrated, because I think Oregon, especially when they have Panay Sewell, Diamador Lenore, Jevon Holland, Thomas Graham, I think they had the ability to be a team that would win every game by like 20 points, and just be able to be so dominant. They'd be like, damn, maybe Oregon is, and maybe they would get in. But I don't know now because they lost some players. I don't know if they're going to be as dominant. I could still see Oregon being 7-0. I'm going to do an article on it, but I compared the rosters, and even despite those losses, I still second best roster on baseline talent. And then as far as productivity and coaching impact, I would still put Oregon 1. And then USC probably falls there at 2. So there is a possibility they go 7-0, but I just don't know if it will be good enough to. What is this?
Ty, you okay?
Yeah, I'm like walking and there's like a falcon flying right over my head.
Oh, that's cool.
You think it's cool? I don't know if I think it's cool. Anyways, but yeah, that's my opinion. I think the only 2 possible teams that even remotely have the talent to make the college football playoff is Oregon and USC. From just a baseline perspective, from a returning production perspective, a team like Washington does have talent. They have the 3rd most talented roster, but the problem is they have a new head coach, they have a new offensive coordinator, they have a new quarterback, they pretty much have all new receivers. Running back has been with all the cancellations and stuff. I just don't think that will give enough time to get them up to speed to really have a really proficient offense this season. And even though I think they're going to be very good defensively, I just don't think the offense is just. I think they're losing out too. So that leaves it to 2 teams. Can they go 7-0? Can they look really impressive? Based on the data that I look at, I would consider it unlikely. I just don't think there's actually going to be a team. It's not even about the not playing enough games. I just don't know if there's a team in the Pac-12 quite good enough this year to make the college football.
Also, can the other teams come along? I know there was some recent reports about Colorado University in Boulder that had to shut down due to a spike. Do you think all the teams can come around in the Pac-12 like Colorado?
What do you mean?
Well, we got till November. Anyways.
Well, what do you mean exactly? No, actually,
do you think?
What do
you think? I mean, obviously, Pac-12 would be an interesting conference, and obviously with the politics and the officials.
Yep.
Do you think there might be a team or 2 that that will have issues with their state governments or city governments?
Like actually played in the game?
Correct.
Like California, supposedly have an agreement, and it got further clarified yesterday. I think what will happen is it'll put California, for instance, Colorado, for instance, Oregon was, for instance. I'll put them maybe in behind the 8 ball in regards to preparation. I think, and I'm saying I think, that they will be able to play games. I just think that, for instance, a team like Colorado that needs all the help that they can get, it'll be both inconvenient and might put them upon the 8 ball where they're just even less competitive than they would be. Possibly in California, a team like Cal, which is returning some pieces, they're returning their quarterback, but because the fact that they weren't able to practice, they've had very strict requirements in the county in Berkeley where they are, that maybe their team just won't be quite as good as even they're going to be. I think it'll maybe more than anything impact the competitive equity than it does actually the ability to play. Do you understand what I mean? I just think because of the lack of ability to play in as a team and practice as a team, they just won't be as good. And so someone like Cal, who you could say maybe because of returning a quarterback and returning some pieces on the offensive side of the ball, you would have been like, oh, maybe they're a dark horse. Maybe they could upset on Oregon. I don't know if they can now because they need all the help that they can get from a preparation standpoint in order to make up for their lack of overall talent. And because they've had so many restrictions, I don't know if I think that could impact the possibility of them pulling off like an upset in that situation.
We have till November, so there's plenty of time for all that to be settled through. It'll be on November 6th, so quite interesting date. Ryan, any closing thoughts on the Pac-12 coming back?
No, obviously it's good to have all 5 Power 5 conferences. You know, I think it's just good for the players that are playing. You know, whether they'll make a big impact, you know, in the playoffs, we'll see. But it gets them back on the schedule of everybody else, and hopefully, you know, get through this year, and then we'll hopefully everything will kind of be better going into the 2021 season. So.
So Ryan, off the top of your head, do you think there's anyone in the Pac-12 that could go undefeated?
Oh, I think you definitely Oregon. I mean, I think them not slipping up in one game will be hard. I'd be hard pressed for them not to do that. USC's got the talent too, but other than that, no, there's no dominant team in the Pac-12. I think roster wise, that's going to actually take over the other teams on a week-to-week basis. So yeah, that's why I said it's kind of a long shot. And I think what's going to hurt Oregon and USC is the mediocrity of the rest of the conference too.
So you think like Oregon could be undefeated. You just think it just might not be enough being undefeated in the Pac-12.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say a 7-0 team gets in over a 10-1 Ohio State team from the Big Ten.
Or Alabama,
like I said, or maybe a 10-1 Alabama or LSU or something. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, because as you know, I take out my formula and I just am looking at the baseline, and other than Oregon, USC, I just don't think there's even a team that's just plain simple good enough. And USC, because of coaching impact, the fact that Clay Helton has done so much less with having more, and Oregon missing some really good players that ended up opting out because the Pac-12, supposedly canceled their season. I think if there was going to be a team, it was going to be Oregon with everyone. And they possibly could have been so dominant, beating everyone by 21 plus points. They could have, put it over despite only playing 7 games. I just don't know if they're going to be that dominant because of the losses of guys like Panay Sewell, Diamador, Lenore, Jevin Holland, and Thomas Brown.
But this is my closing thought. Oregon, USC kind of excel in recruiting. It keeps them fresh in the minds and recruits for next, coming up and signing,
Yeah,
they're playing.
And they have top
I think if anything else, it keeps them in the minds of these elite players they have commitments from, and I whether they make it or not, but this year is a weird year, and you just got to keep that momentum that you're going on recruiting. I think that's the biggest takeaway from at least playing is that you stay fresh in the minds of these high school kids, who got commitments to your school.
Any thoughts on that, Tyler?
No, I agree with him.
before we go into the Mountain West.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that he's right. And right now, Oregon has the number 3 class in the nation. So they have a lot to play for. I mean, by next year, especially with all the experience they're going to get to younger guys, Oregon, unquestionably will be a national champion contender, college football playoff contender in 2021. And USC, they need to turn it around. Remember, they had a horrible class last year, the number 63 class. Clay Helton thought he was going to get fired. The year before, they didn't have a great class. So USC really needs to turn the momentum and get some recruits in there because they're actually have been heading in the complete wrong direction when it comes to recruiting, which is very unusual for USC. So yeah, I think that is very important to be able to have a season, so they're being able to get momentum on the trail in the future. Because if Oregon can really finish off a top 5 class this year, will have set Oregon up for a pretty successful period where they could dominate the Pac-12 for the foreseeable future.
And there you have it, Pac-12 assembling things together. November 6th is the starting date for the Pac-12. Looking forward to it. We might have Pac-12 week, but to TBD. Mountain West also made their announcement. They're coming back October 24th. They're going to be back playing. They'll be playing 8 games with a schedule yet to be released. The conference will hold its championship game on December 19th. Ryan, you're kind of familiar with the Mountain West. What are your thoughts about them returning?
And obviously the same thing as Pac-12. It carries, get you back in this cycle, let your players that are on your roster basically have a free year of playing college football. They can get their year back of eligibility. This does not really reflect on the playoffs because there's only one team I think upper echelon, and that's Boise State, and they return a good amount of players and I think a really good quarterback in Hank Reichmeister. But again, it's good to have even a group of 5 teams back because they're still quality football. They're just not played at the upper echelon as the Pac-12 does. But I think again, it's good for recruiting and it's good for publicity because you don't want to be that conference that misses out. So as I'm saying that, hopefully we get these MAC commissioners on and we have all 10 conferences playing football here by November. Obviously this is a weird year. There's a lot of different circumstances, but again, the players who are still working hard to keep themselves safe and devoted to their team, deserve a chance, even if it's for a short season, to play the game that they really love.
Tyler, your thoughts on the Mountain West returning next month?
I'm very excited for the Mountain West, and I appreciate them coming up with a plan and then setting it in stone. But they're not playing. I don't know. They're not going to be able to play October 24th. The reason why San Jose, Fresno State, and San Diego State, all California schools, they still haven't had the restrictions completely lifted yet. They have a temporary approval. They have a contingency plan, but it actually hasn't been set in stone. How are they going to be prepared? San Jose State, for instance, is in the same county as Stanford. So that is some of the strictest COVID rules in California, in the country. They're not going to be able to play. I mean, what's the date today?
September 25th.
25th. I mean,
a month.
And you're just going to jump right into fall camp here it hasn't even been lifted. Weekend? So yeah, basically, so I appreciate them kind of being gung ho and saying, hey, we're going to do this 8-game schedule. And that's cool. But I don't see it. I think they're going to end up playing November 7th too. But
who's your favorite team from the Mountain West?
Favorite, or who do I think's best? I don't really have a favorite. I guess if I'm Marcus Arroyo. He was the offensive coordinator for Oregon. He was a very maligned offensive coordinator. He's coaching at UNLV, so I'll be rooting for them. I'm rooting for him to do well. I think Boise State's the best team. I think you have other teams that are competitive. Fresno State, San Diego State, they have their years definitely where they are competitive. I don't know what transfers they've had come in because that a lot of times can impact how good you are. If you get a good transfer out from I think Jake Sears from USC went to one of the schools. I'm not sure which one, but So, but I think Boise State's definitely has been the class for a long time of the Mountain West. And yeah, but I'm rooting probably for UNLV this year.
Ryan, Christa, any closing thoughts on the Mountain West before we go on to the NFL?
No, like I said, it's just good to get more West Coast football, more football to watch, late night on Saturday.
Who is your favorite team from the Mountain West?
Oh, what? Boise State. I'm always
Blue
friend of the
turf.
blue. Yes. I mean, I feel like I'm always kind of got that underdog, You know me, Johnny Group of Five, but here, like you said, Tyler kind of hit on San Diego State's a good team. Got a new coach, Brady Hoke, going back to San Diego State. Fresno State, they're
San
pretty
Diego
good.
State. Jeez. Brady
Yeah.
Hoke, that guy. he was the defensive coordinator.
It's funny they ran out Rocky Long, who was, I think, an above average coach there for a really long time. He wasn't flashing
to bring back Hoke, who was the defensive coordinator for Oregon when they had the number 126 ranked defense.
Yeah, I mean, really, Brady Hoke took one good year from San Diego State and put it, roll that into getting the Michigan job. But yeah, so they're good. Like I said, UNLV is always, I think, a sleeping giant. Out there in the desert. Playing in that brand new spaceship stadium out there. I think that's going to be good for recruiting. So, again, like I said, I think Boise State this year especially has got the talent, they got the quarterback, and I don't think they'll be really tested too much, but again, it really doesn't matter. I don't even know what bowl system is going to look like this year. So, I mean, we're just really, all we can do is we're guaranteed the regular season games. After that, it's,
And the thing is, if Boise State can go 8-0, 7-0, and the American has a couple losses, Boise State could end up being the team that gets the at-large, which is the New Year's Six Bowl. So that's a big prize.
The bowl games.
I think if they're playing evenly staged, I think I've seen from UCF against Georgia Tech, they just got the athleticism that Group of Five teams usually don't have. And they got the quarterback, I mean, he's a difference maker, but it just, you just don't see speed and athleticism out of Group of Five teams like I saw Saturday against Georgia Tech.
Anyways, that is our college football update, our Pac-12 update. Let's head into NFL.
Oh, Santiago, before we go on to NFL, Tyler, did you catch any of the Liberty Western Kentucky game this week?
I did not. I saw that Liberty won. I saw that Malik Willis was really, really impressive, but no, I did not watch him.
354 yards on the ground. This is definitely, last year they were kind of an aired out team with Buckshot and Gandy Golden, but with Willis, I mean, he's a big, thick guy and speed. He's definitely an SEC athlete. So it'll be interesting. He's definitely, there's going to be games where he's going to be asked to throw the ball. He didn't have to this week, but eventually teams are going to load up the box and force him to throw it. But I think it was an impressive victory against an above average Group of Five team in Western Kentucky.
All I know that a couple of, our lovely media sources are really pushing out the narrative that if Hugh Freeze can have a really good season, he might take off to Southern Miss where he has connections. Possibly if a job like Vanderbilt opens up in the SEC, they want to move him on from Liberty as quickly as.
I mean, goodness. I mean, I think it's interesting. I don't know how many jobs are going to be open up this year, but I mean, if he can, really, have another successful year, which I think, other than the ACC teams they're playing, which I think they can. Talent-wise, what I've seen out of Syracuse, they should evenly, in a road game with no fans, they should be able to, win that game. But Virginia Tech and NC State might be tough. You're looking at an 8-2, 7-3 team, I think at best, which is definitely going to keep them on the Power 5 radar. I mean, because he's now proven that he can do it in different ways.
I could see in a year like this with no fans, they could possibly pull up an upset against Virginia Tech and North Carolina State. It's definitely possible.
And, it's interesting, 5 years ago, last time Florida and Ole Miss playing was my first ever time venturing down to the swamp. As I think I saw Santiago that day. Santiago, you remember that?
Yes, we did. We met in Gainesville.
Yes, on
nice.
Things have changed, Hugh Freeze, Ole Miss was number 3 in the country. Gators had Will Greer when Jim McElwain was a coach, and Florida, I think, upset by at least 30 points that day. But that was a high mark of, I think, Hugh Freeze's tenure going into that week. They just had beaten Alabama for the second straight week. So interesting how 5 years have changed time. Hugh Freeze is now coaching at Liberty, and Dan Mullen is at Florida.
It's Florida's head coach.
Number 3, yeah. So it's kind of flip-flop, and Ole Miss is now rebuilding under Lane Kiffin. So just a little closing remarks before we switch over to pro football.
Anyways, yes, this segment is a little bit more predictions than preview, but let's start with San Francisco versus the Giants. Of course, last week they had bad turf. Garoppolo will be out this weekend. Ryan, who do you think is going to win this game?
I mean, under normal circumstances, I think the 49ers win this game easily, but, they got Nick Mullins, who is a proven backup, but they got injury. Nick Bosa's out, and Solomon Thomas, I think, they've been out on the East Coast all week. I think, they'll rally around, their team, and they'll probably beat the Giants, who are still rebuilding, which I think, here's some things about the Giants. They haven't played well, but they don't commit any penalties. They hardly have turned the ball over. They just don't have the talent to go around Daniel Jones right now, especially now that Sterling Shepard is out for a year. I don't know who he's going to be throwing the ball over to other than Evan, Ingram, at tight end. So I think I like the 49ers in this game, but it's not because I love the 49ers. I just think they're just, even the dismantled 49ers is better than the full, the Giants team that they're going to roll out this week.
Ty Turner, who you got between the Niners and the Giants?
I'll go Niners.
Let's go the Washington football team versus the Cleveland Browns. Ryan, Washington are 2-0. Can they go 3-0?
No, but Santiago, they're not 2-0. They're 1-1.
They're 1-1. Oh, my bad. I got this wrong. Okay, 1-1. Can they go be 2-1?
You can't get that past me, Santiago.
Someone's a Washington fan.
No, I know. I just watched them play the Cardinals last week, and they definitely got demolished.
At the end of the season, Santiago is going to be like, Washington is 16-0. Like, no, they're not. We know you like Chase Young and Dwayne Haskins.
No, I think this is definitely, definitely not a sexy matchup, that's for sure. But I think I'm going to go with the Browns. I think they're turning the corner. They played really well against the Bengals last week. Baker Mayfield. This is a different, if he can run this offense, and I think it's a run-first offense, which is totally different the way he had in the first couple of years. They got Chubb and Hunt back there. You got a lot of that, zone blocking and then play action fake. You see a lot of things you see out of a Kyle Shanahan team, and then what you do is you play action fake, and you're going to look for the deep ball. And you say what you say about Odell, but the guy can get down the field and he can catch the deep ball. He's just not going to catch that wide open 5-yard pass in front of him. But Jarvis Landry, I just like him right here, and I like him. I think the Washington and inspired first week, they're down 17-0 to the Eagles. They came back, rallied, but I think their luck ran out, especially last week. They looked pretty pedestrian against, the Cardinals. And I think the Browns show up with a victory this week.
Tough week 2 game for Washington. Tyler, who do you got between the Washington football team at the Cleveland Browns?
Yeah, I'll agree with Ryan here. They're looking a little better under Baker Mayfield, Cleveland.
Cincinnati versus Philadelphia, Joe Burrow versus Wentz. Ryan, who you got for this matchup?
I really want Joe Burrow to get this first victory. I just think the Eagles desperately need this game, to stay in, the East, because they can't go down to 0-3. So I think just they're going to will themselves the victory here. And I'm going to take the Eagles, even though they have not been impressive. And Wentz he's not looked good. Forcing the ball, they just haven't looked much. They haven't been much sync on offense. I think last week, there was a lot of speculation of using Jalen Hurts. They put him on the field a couple of times. I think they're trying to be a little too cute. I think they got to go back to what they do best, and running the ball. And I just think they're just a better football team than the Bengals right now. So I'm going to say they're going to win the game. The Eagles.
Tyler, how is Joe Burrow looking so far?
Yeah, he hasn't looked bad at all. He's looked pretty good. The problem is he just doesn't have a great team. He's getting hit a lot. The bit I've seen him play, and I haven't watched the full games, he's been getting smacked around pretty good. And at the end of the day, you can eventually get hurt, especially when you get hit by NFL guys. So I do worry about him getting hurt, but he's played pretty good considering. But yeah, I picked the Eagles. They haven't looked good, but I just think they're still a little better team.
Do you think we'll see a Jalen Hurts playing a full game, Tyler, this season?
I don't think he should, but I don't know. That's a good question. I still have a hard time seeing Jalen Hurts being a really consistent NFL franchise guy. So, and they have Carson Wentz. So, we'll see. I don't believe so, no. Unless Wentz gets hurt.
That's Tyler Jalen Hurts' update on Jalen Hurts this year. Ryan, Jalen Hurts, full game?
Not this year, Santiago. I think they got to ride it. They think Carson, which was weird about this drafting Jalen Hurts, is they signed Carson Wentz to a long, a lot of money involved. They got to give him a shot. But that just doesn't mean I don't think Jalen Hurts will touch the ball more, throughout the year. But you won't see him, play quarterback for a full game this year, unless injury happens, which you can't ever rule out when Carson Wentz is a quarterback.
2-0 Las Vegas Raiders versus the New England Patriots. Tyler, what do you think is going to happen there?
I think New England's looked pretty good. I know they lost to Seattle, but I think as a whole, Cam Newton has played well. I thought they've been a lot better than I thought they were going to be. Shouldn't be surprising. Still Belichick's their head coach. Is it at Las Vegas or is it at New England?
New England, Gillette Stadium.
It's at New.
Yes.
Okay, I picked New England. Raiders haven't looked bad either, so Raiders have looked pretty good too. But I do think, I'm gonna go with New England.
Ryan, interesting game. Who do you have in Gillette Stadium?
I mean, I know the Patriots lost the other night to the Seahawks, but they were very impressive. The good ball control. Cam Newton looked young and rejuvenated. But so did the Raiders. Wow, what an impressive second half against the
They beat the Saints, Ryan.
I mean, they didn't just beat them; they mauled them in the second half. I think the Raiders are definitely improved, but it's hard to go again. Maybe the tide is turning back for the Patriots. I'm going to go with New England.
New England, both are New England picks. Chicago at Atlanta. Ryan, can Matt Ryan and the Falcons get their first win?
Well, I like them better if they're coming behind by in the fourth quarter and winning a game. That's kind of is there more maligned head coach in sports right now than Dan Quinn? This guy gets more chances. I mean, what has he proved? One good year.
God's on his side.
Something. I don't know. After that, they played spectacular against the Cowboys, and then they just let them off the hook. The Bears, typical Bears, not, play close to the vest. Mitch Trubisky hasn't played bad. But so I'm gonna go with the Bears to win because I think they're just a better overall football team. But I don't think either team is spectacular though.
Ty
Turner, Chicago Bears at the Atlanta Falcons.
Atlanta. Obviously beat them last week.
Incredible loss. Rams at the Buffalo Bills.
Do you hear me?
Christa. Yeah, what was that? No, I can't. Your audio went low a little bit. When does Zilch? Yeah.
Hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So you hear
it's kind of windy over there. It sounds like.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. I'm trying to walk around outside. Otherwise, I'm stuck. Can you hear me good?
Yes.
I said Atlanta. I think they'll win at home.
Ryan, Christa, Rams at the Buffalo Bills. Huge win last week with when they played against the Dolphins.
2-0. I mean, Josh, has there been a better quarterback in the first 2 weeks than Josh Allen? Santiago, I've been enjoying a lot of Josh Jacks, which is a knockoff of Apple Jacks they sell here in Western New York. Just a really interesting, this big strong guy. It's like I feel like I'm watching my childhood with John Elway back there, with the big arm, strong guy. it's just amazing to see how much they improved with getting Stephon Diggs back in the mix here for the Bills. The Rams have looked impressive. You're kind of going back to, Rams of 2018 here, balanced running attack, play action fake. Jared Goff looks very good back there, comfortable. I think this is going to be a back and forth shootout game, but I'm going to go with the hometown Buffalo Bills.
Ty Turner, Rams at the Buffalo Bills at Ryan Wilson Stadium.
First of all, before I go on a rant, can you hear me good?
Yes.
You hear me, Ryan?
I can hear you.
Might need to get a hearing test for.
Well, you're not going back and forth now.
Okay. I think it's in Buffalo. Buffalo's look really good. I think they're actually a pretty good team. Like Ryan said, Josh Allen has been very good. He's been impressive around him. Sorry, I'm getting out of the wind here in a minute. Like I all of a sudden feel like I just moved to Chicago in the last 15 minutes.
That's what it sounds like.
No, it's like, or actually Miami.
Hey, it sounds like hurricane season.
Dude, when I used to live in Miami, my gosh, I'd walk out of my apartment and it felt like I'd be blown away. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. 5, 4, 7. All right, that's better. Okay. I think that the Bills are pretty good. I just think they have a pretty good team. I think Josh Allen he's a heck of a dude when it comes to just being like physical and running hard and making like just tough plays. He reminds me of like maybe a more athletic version of even like Ben Roethlisberger. So I want to go Bills. I mean, I think the Rams have looked pretty good. I think Jared Goff is definitely stepping back to his what he looked like 2 years ago. And I think as a whole, McVay seems to have spent the offseason kind of coming up with a little better game plan of how to execute that offense at a high level again. But I think, yeah, the Bills just good defense. Josh Allen's playing really well. I just like how he's doing. I'm going to go Bills.
The Bills both pick the Bills to win. Let's go to our next game. Houston at Pittsburgh Steelers. Ryan, Christa, what's going to happen between Deshaun Watson versus Roethlisberger?
What a tough start of the season for the Houston Texans. First, they got to play the defending champion Chiefs, and then they play the Ravens, and now they got to go to Pittsburgh and play. Wow, that's not a very easy way of starting a season. So they desperately need this game being 0-2. I think they regret that trade where they're sending Hopkins over for David Johnson. I'm going to go with the Steelers, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Texans win the game. I think the Steelers just look good. I think they're on the mission after missing the playoffs last year. They got Big Ben back. That defense is tough. And Big Ben looks good. Throwing the ball all over the yard. Chase Claypool was a nice pickup for them out of, from Notre Dame. Can get down the field, made a huge catch against the Broncos, an 84-yard touchdown pass. But, and Juju does what Juju does. So when they can get any production out of the running back position, out of James Conner and Benny Snell, they're, I think, unstoppable. So I'm going to go with the Steelers, but I think the Texans are on desperation watch, though, too, because they can't fall to 0-3.
Man, I'm craving for a Permanente sandwich right now.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure.
I think we're not talking to the donut man right here, Santiago.
Ty Turner, who do you have between Houston Texans visiting the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah, Texans have had a tough schedule to start the season. I'm going to go Steelers. I think they've looked pretty good. Ben's looking pretty good coming off of his surgery. Good defense, pretty just good. Chase Claypool is turning to be a great weapon. And I'm going to go Steelers.
This will be an interesting game here. Tennessee Titans at Minnesota. Let's go with Ty. Who do you think will win in that matchup?
Well, Minnesota, plain and simple, has not looked good. Kirk Cousins is not playing well. Defensively, they have not looked great. Anthony Barr's out for the season. Troy Dye, who's actually a former Duck, was his replacement. He's also out for a while. They have a young secondary, some rookies who've gone through some growing pains. Jeff Gladney and Cam Dantzler. And offensively, I mean, they just are having trouble. They have Adam Thielen, but who else do they have to get open for? The run game hasn't been great. I don't think the Vikings are very good. So I'm going to go Titans. I think Titans have a better team. I just think better offense, better defense. I think they're better. So.
Ryan, Christa, you're a Gostkowski fan. Who do you have between the Titans at the Vikings?
I was a Gostkowski fan when he kept the Broncos in a game a couple weeks ago with all those missed kicks. Yeah, like Ty just said it, I mean, the Vikings, are unrecognizable from last year. They're struggling mightily on defense. There were a lot of injuries in offense. They can't run the ball. They can't, if Kirk Cousins can't throw the ball. So they're in the hole. And again, another team is 0-2 that desperately needs a game. So maybe desperation, they just play above themselves this week and get a win against a 2-0 Titans team. But it's a prove it game. Until you prove it, you got to do it. So I'm going to go with the Titans.
Tennessee Titans wins in Minnesota. The 4 p.m. hour, Carolina at the Chargers. Let's go with Ty, who has Justin Herbert. Well, Justin Herbert will be starting that game. Tyrod Taylor is still recovering from the chest incident last weekend. Will this be Herbert's first win?
And got to talk about Justin Herbert. I haven't gotten to talk on a podcast. I think I mentioned
I'll give you 5 minutes.
I did it on my show. I mentioned it a little bit. Herbert finds out, he's a rookie, obviously, second game, 5 minutes before the game, he finds out he's going to start against the defending Super Bowl champs. And I thought he played very well, other than one play. And actually, when that play I went back and watched an analysis on it, even that bad interception, he actually made the right play. The left tackle whiffed. He actually had to scramble out, and it is the quarterback's first objective is to get the ball down the field. He just should have seen that he was throwing in triple coverage. But it was not necessarily a play that was he was not supposed to do. It was actually the play that he technically was supposed to do, but he just had to move out of it. But he was impressive. And then he's going to play against Carolina. Carolina's not very good. Now they get a week to prepare. Matt Rule's a good defensive coach. I tell you what, if Herbert can go out there and look really impressive, all the noise is just going to get louder and louder that you have to play Herbert this year. I think Chargers are going to win. I just think they're better. I think they're better. They're not very good on offense. Christian McCaffrey's hurt. I just think Carolina's going to struggle to move the ball, and I think it's going to be a victory for the Chargers at home.
All signs point towards the Chargers. Ryan, who do you have between them two?
Oh, I agree with everything Tyler said. I mean, the Panthers aren't very good, and they're missing their best player, McCaffrey. And Herbert looked good last week against the Chiefs. If he plays anything like he did, they should win easily against the Panthers.
A troubled Jets at the Indianapolis Colts. Ryan, who do you got? Obviously, the Jets are having problems. I believe the Colts as well. Who do you think will win this game?
I'm going to go with the Colts. I think the Jets are an absolute dumpster fire. If Dan Quinn isn't the worst coach in the league, it might be Adam Gase. So
Which is Adam Gase.
I mean, the problem might be those eye. Maybe I just can't get over the eye situation with Adam Gase.
Yeah, but, I just think of like when he did that press conference look, I just can't get it out of my head.
I mean, I think the Dolphins upgraded totally when they got Brian Flores over Adam Gase. I know Flores has many wins, but I think he's gonna. If they give him time, I think he's a great culture building guy, and I think they'll be good for the long haul. But going back to this game, I think the Colts roll easily over the Jets.
Right, Ty Turner, another game at the Dome. Jets at the Colts. Who do you think will win?
Well, Jets stink. So let's get that out of the way. Because of that, I'm getting the Colts. I don't think the Colts are a great team either. I think both teams are. I think Philip Rivers he's old, but I'm going to go with the Colts. I just think the Jets are not a very good team.
Let's stick with this one. Sam Darnold, obviously, this is his second season. Is he still the guy up in New York, or any one of you two?
Yeah, I just think he hasn't had I don't think it's his fault. I think they just don't have much talent around him, and I think he's, as long as a quarterback's still on his rookie contract, you got to keep playing him as long as he's not awful, because he's not costing you very much money. So, and I think you keep rolling with him, but that's my point of view.
Ty?
So sorry, ask that question again.
Yes. Do you think Sam Darnold is the man in New York?
He's played on such a bad team. He made a great play. He had a terrific highlight play the other day. And he can do some good things. I mean, I remember as a Pac-12 guy, obviously I saw him play a lot of USC, and he definitely has a lot of upside. He was better his first year than his second year. I don't know. I think that's to be determined. They're not a good team. They're the worst team in the league. A bad offensive line. Micah Becton's making it a little better. He doesn't have a lot of weapons. I thought they should have drafted someone earlier. I remember I was a strong advocate of that for the Jets. They didn't. I think they are really bad. So I think it's tough to judge him. I think get a new coach in there, get some more weapons in there, just get a better overall team in there, and let's see maybe him get another year with a better team. I just think it's a little quick to jump the gun on that one.
Let's move on to Seattle. The Cowboys visit Seattle, which a place I believe Cowboys have won before. Ryan, who do you think will win in that matchup?
Cowboys coming off of their great win against the Pelicans, and Seahawks holding off the Patriots at the 1 yard line the other night. I think this is a classic, game. I think both teams are great offenses, two good quarterbacks. I'm going to go with the Seahawks.
CD Lamb. Ty Turner, Cowboys at the Hawks. Seahawks.
Cowboys had that crazy victory, so that's such a momentum. It's just huge when you can get a momentum changer like that. You can come back, not play a great game, and end up winning. But I think the Seahawks are pretty good. Russell Wilson's playing at an extremely high level. I'm going to go Seahawks. I keep on wanting to say at home, but honestly, and maybe I'll ask Ryan, Christa, I mean, there is a travel impact. You're having to travel if you're playing on the road, and then so that does impact you a little bit. Also, you're used to playing in your home stadium, so there's a little bit. But for the most part, how diminished has home field advantage been for even college and pro football?
Oh, huge.
I think you said when you're home, at least you have a rhythm going on.
Yeah.
In your pro, you're staying in your house. I think right now travel in the NFL is crazy because I think. Normally I think on a normal Sunday game, you're getting there, Friday afternoon or Saturday morning. Now you're getting there either on the day of the game or really late Saturday. You get in, you get out, and so, it's a lot different circumstances. So I think you're not getting the resting relaxation you normally get in the NFL. In college, it's the same idea. Everything is so the actual gameplay is probably minimal effects, but I think the whole travel situation is a lot different, especially if you're going cross country. And you don't have that as much in college, but I think in the NFL, I think it affects you a lot.
Yeah, and
I'm doing a brief. Sorry, not to interrupt you, but I'm doing a brief look at the home and away, and I'm just kind of doing this briefly looking over, and it looks just literally about 50-50 right now. So tell you about the advantage. It's 50-50.
Neutral sites, pretty much.
It's basically right now 50-50. I mean, there's not really any advantage at all. So that's the NFL. I'm not looking at the data. Haven't looked at the data for college football, but
I think you're still too early in college football. I mean, because now it'll be interesting because I think the SEC is one of the few conferences where you have you pretty much standard 20% occupancy, which could make a difference. You're not going to have a roaring crowd, but 20. If you have a certain amount of college students in the game who are loud and obnoxious, that can make a difference. More in the NFL. You look at the NFL stadiums. Especially in Miami, Santiago, they looked like they had 100 yards between fans, You're not going to get that voice, when you're separated like that, that's going to make little of no impact. But, in college stadiums, I feel like they're going to be a little bit closer than probably the CDC would probably recommend. But so I think you could have a little bit of an impact there with noise. But again, it's definitely not the same as it normally is for sure.
Yeah, which I actually been talking about this since June when I saw soccer returning in Europe. There was not much home field advantage or anything like that. The only thing I see is like stadiums like in Denver where things are like a little bit like with like high altitude or in places that have like interesting weather. For example, Miami for the Heat or in Buffalo when it gets really snowy.
Absolutely. Those are definitely good thing. As we go on, it's still kind of early. I mean, NFL is only 2 weeks. College is a very small sample size. I think we can have this conversation in a month from now, and we'll have a better idea what, the impact or lack of impact home field really means. I think in college football, I feel like in college football, your home field means so much, the winning percentage.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially in the SEC. I mean, the home field advantage.
Yeah, if you look at it, like for instance, obviously as an Oregon fan, even during the years, like the initial year of Willie Taggart and Mario Cristobal, they combined at home were, I think, 13-1, and on the road, they were. I'm doing this off the top of my head, but I think it was like 2-8. So that should just show you how big a difference home field and road can be. You can be an almost undefeated home team and maybe not barely win a road game.
I feel like if you played an Arizona State game last year and up in Eugene, you're playing in
that doesn't happen.
College football playoff.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. I agree.
I just think under normal circumstances, playing on the road in college, I think it's like a 7-point of it. You're giving the other, home team a good, good start.
I just wonder this year in general, which teams are coming out really like, I want to win this year. I think that's what it comes down to. And if you have a team that no matter if they're home or away and they're just not fully bought in, they can lose. So it doesn't. So if you have a team that's just really inspired to play, I think you're going to see that more so this year than even other years.
Yeah,
possibly
I
talent.
think one of the dangerous things of college, and I think I'll go just real quick, is if you got a team who, midway through the season, they're 0-5, how hard are they going to be trying to go through their protocols? What's the chances that, they're going to stop going, on the weekday, not hanging out with their friends, a normal part of campus, and that's going to really affect, the future of the conference. It's going to keep, they're going to have to keep these teams motivated, some sort. But I think what's going to motivate them maybe is that every team's eligible for bowl season. I know we don't know what that's going to look like, but maybe that keeps the carrot at the end of the road for some of these teams who are struggling mightily,
All right, guys, we got to go rapid fire. Okay. One word answers. Detroit at Arizona. Ryan.
Arizona.
Hi. Arizona. Tampa Bay at the Broncos. Ryan.
I'll go with the Broncos. I always vote with my heart, Santiago.
Tyler Turner. Brady visits Denver, but with a Buccaneer uniform on.
Buccaneers.
Hey, I want to go real quick. Sorry. It's so, 6 years ago, I'm watching Jeff Driscoll, and I couldn't wait for him to get out of Florida, and now he's back to the quarterback for the Broncos. Now this is
true.
Like the worst nightmare.
Okay, great coincidence.
Great
coincidence. Okay, Packers at the Saints, Sunday Night Football. Ryan.
Packers, Aaron Rodgers, too much.
Ty Turner, your Packers at the Saints.
Dude, Packers are playing good. I know we're supposed to give a word, but Packers look really good. I'm loving the running game. I'm loving the
Devontae Adams.
Cord. He got injured last week, but I think he's gonna be fine. And Scantling and Lazard have stepped up, and then they have some good tight end options. And Aaron Jones they look good.
Okay, college, really quick. Kentucky at Auburn. Ryan.
Auburn.
Ty.
Auburn.
Florida at Ole Miss. Ryan.
Florida.
Ty.
Ole Miss. I'm just kidding. Florida.
Louisville at Pittsburgh. Ty.
Who'd you say? Sorry.
Louisville at Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh looks pretty good. I like some players on that team. Pittsburgh.
Rebound. I'll go the Ville. They've had a tough week.
Ty. Army at Cincinnati.
Oh man, Army's. I expected them to be a pretty good team, but I think Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
Ryan? Cincinnati wins. Alabama and Missouri. Ryan.
Alabama.
Ty Turner.
Missouri is the upset.
FSU at Miami.
I'm just kidding. Alabama.
I mean, they could win. Anyways, FSU at Miami. Ryan.
I'm going to go with the U, Santiago.
Thank God. Ty Turner, Mike Norvell at Miami.
You. Yeah, I mean, Florida State. Ooh. Yeah, the U.
And random question: what is the best sauce to dip your quesadillas?
Nacho sauce. Nacho sauce.
Nacho sauce, sour cream, guacamole, or salsa. Ty?
Salsa, I guess.
Okay. Anyways, Ryan, what's the best way to reach you to talk to about the Broncos beating the Buccaneers?
The Mad Dog Report 18. You know, I'm believing Santiago. Mile High Magic here Sunday afternoon.
Ty Turner, what's the best way to reach you to follow you along when Herbert beat the Panthers?
At TurnerCast.
And of course, you can reach us at the Sportscast1 on Twitter or at the sportscast.net. Football SEC begins this weekend, NFL Week 3. Guys, you cannot get bored this weekend. Thanks for coming on.
See you guys.